Raising 3 children in cramped quarters as a single dad can feel overwhelming, but it doesn't compare to the months where Yevgeny Meshevoy was locked up with no idea where his children were or even if they were still alive.
It's terrifying not knowing where your kids are. Where are they going? Why are they leaving? When will you see them again? The unknown is the scariest.
This was the family in happier times in Mariupol, before Russia invaded and even took over their local school. Like many others, the family hid for weeks in basements. But by April, with the city in ruin and the fighting still relentless, they knew they had to get out. But back then, they didn't make it far. At a checkpoint, Russian soldiers discovered Meshevoy used to be in the Ukrainian military. He eventually ended up in this prison.
I thought about how to survive, how to get through it.
How often were you thinking about your children and wondering where they were?
Every day. Somehow I subconsciously talk to them. I talk to each one of them. I calmed them down. I said I would come for them. And I'm still alive.
What happened after you were separated from your dad?
I missed him, but I tried not to think about it so I wouldn't be upset.
The children were eventually sent on a journey like this to Moscow. Russia's Children's Rights Commissioner Maria Lvova-Belova insists this isn't deportation, but rather salvation. She's posted highly produced, triumphant videos showing smiling faces and warm welcomes. The country even changed its laws so the children could quickly receive citizenship. In another video, the commissioner talks about a teenager she adopted from Mariupol.
I started talking to him and I can't explain what came over me, but I just understood he's mine. This is my child.
All of it, Ukraine says, amounts to a war crime. They say they've identified at least 13,000 children who've been forced to go to Russia.
11,000 дітей.
These are the only ones we know about, says Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky. In fact, there are more deported. Russia published photos showing what they say are crews rescuing orphans from the occupied territories like Kherson, which Russia seized in the early days of the war. A journalist working for CBC took these images of a care home in Kherson just a few days after the Russian soldiers left. The care home director said under occupation, Russia's security services turned up one day and took all of the files on the children.
It became dangerous to stay here with the kids, so we had to hide them. We hid them among families.
This is one of the first times the children and the staff have been able to reunite. Many of the children in care homes in Ukraine aren't really orphans, and their families could be looking for them now.
They can have other relatives. They have a right, they are Ukrainian citizens. They have a right to reunite with their own families.
Marina Lepivetska is with the Ukrainian NGO Magnolia and says it's hard to figure out how many children have been sent to Russia. Even harder to bring them back.
Unfortunately, in such circumstances, it is so hard to invent some mechanism to track down those children in Russia, because unfortunately Russians are making all the time a lot of restrictions to confirm that children are there.
When Meshevoy was released from prison at the end of May, he was told his children were in Moscow at a camp. They were actually at a special health resort for children that's advertised online. It's run by the Office of the President and used primarily by the Russian elite. Meshevoy's children said it was heavily guarded and full of children from Ukraine. The Meshevoys said there were activities organized for them, but one day in June, they realized they had to get out fast. What made you call your dad?
Two social workers showed up and said that camp is over and we can't keep you here anymore. We can't take you back to Donetsk because there is too much fighting, and so temporarily we will put you with a family or send you to an orphanage.
Even if we were adopted for a short term, it means forever, because nothing is just short term.
This was the moment Meshevoy reunited with his children. He was able to get them back with the help of a group of volunteers in Russia who arranged travel to Moscow so he could take the kids out of the camp. The family then traveled to Riga, Latvia.
I absolutely think this is wrong. Even I had to deal with this. How can they just adopt like that? There's only one thing I don't understand. Are there really so few homeless children in Russia that they are taking ours?
But Ukraine says thousands of other children are still in Russia. Meshevoy believes his family is adjusting well to the new surroundings, and that being together now helps to dull the memories of what they've all been through this year.
So, Briar, this is terrible, and I'm wondering what more the kids told you.
Well, Adrienne, the children said they were suspicious right from the beginning. As soon as they heard they were going to a camp, the son had actually told us he knew right away that this was no summer camp of any kind. And they also said that the other children that were with them at the camp just outside of Moscow were also told that they would soon be heading to orphanages or in with foster families.
Presumably, child welfare experts have a lot to say about this, eh?
Well, they say that international organizations need to get involved right away to help confirm Ukraine's numbers and to track down these children. I spoke with one expert who said that these Russian foster families probably think they're doing the right thing by taking in these children, but Russia's plan really bears all the hallmarks of an attempt to erase the children's culture and identity. And in some cases, Adrienne, there have been reports that after children are given Russian citizenship, their names are changed.
Briar, thanks to you and the team for doing this. Really glad you did it.
You're welcome.